Brianna and Presley, and we're here to do a 3-month breastfeeding update. I recently returned to work from maternity leave, so I have a lot of mamas on my Instagram who's requested this video, and I'm gonna update you guys just on how pumping is going, what I'm doing to keep my supply up. A question I get asked a lot about drinking wine while breastfeeding or drinking while breastfeeding, and also about the lactation tea that I'm drinking as well. So the first week I was back at work, I was pumping anywhere from 12 to 14 ounces while Presley was away from me, and I pump 3 times while I'm working. She's like, "You're talking about breastfeeding, Mom. I don't want this pacifier." You did just eat though. Who knows, maybe you need more. She's definitely teething. Oh, I'm sorry. I know, teething is no fun at all. But when I am working, I'm generally pumping around 10 o'clock and then usually around 1 o'clock and then again around 3:30. So that way by the time she gets home between 5:30 and 6 o'clock, I'm ready to nurse her generally right when she walks into the door. And then again at bedtime, which is pretty shortly thereafter, but that's usually an hour and a half after that initial feed when she first gets home. Kind of a nice top off before bed. And the biggest thing I would say to other mamas is I'm constantly drinking. I just always try to have a glass of water or even sometimes just a mug of hot water because I can't drink more than 1 cup of coffee, and occasionally I'll have decaf, but obviously decaf really doesn't do anything. So I'll have my cup of hot water because I also feel like drinking hot liquids really helps to keep my supply up. I'm also constantly snacking, so I pretty much apply the same rule of thumb as when I was pregnant to when I'm nursing, is that I'm just constantly trying to have little small snacks that are really nutritious and honestly high in protein, because I feel like that way I can keep my energy levels up as well. Because this little girl, especially this past week, hasn't been drinking as much when she's going to my grandma's house. So the first week at Gigi's house, my grandma said she was taking anywhere from 10 to 14 ounces while she was over there. This last week, there's multiple days she had only 2 ounces, at most 6 ounces. My grandma said she's basically taking around 4 ounces a day when she's over there, which is really low. I've been monitoring her diapers, as has my grandma, and she still is having consistently wet diapers because I think she's making up for not eating during the day at night when she's with me. So it's hard. I know a lot of mamas have said, well, her preference is clearly you, which is normal. Babies would want their moms. But it's still really frustrating because now all I'm doing during the day is worrying about whether or not she's eating enough and if she's okay over there. And we tried really hard for this not to happen because since she was 2 weeks old, our pediatrician had us giving her 1 bottle a day. So she's used to that bottle and she's took from that bottle fine the first week even. And I know one of the suggestions was switch from the size 1 to the size 2. We tried that as well. And I think the next thing we're going to do is just really try to see temperature wise if maybe my grandma needs to heat the bottle up a little more, or maybe not heat it up as much, like leave it out more at room temperature. And we'll see if maybe she just has a preference there, or maybe her hunger strike, she's just gonna have to get over it eventually. I don't really know what our other options are, but I'd be curious if any other mamas have gone through a similar experience, sort of how long did they, you know, fight the not feeding for, or if you have any other tips as well, because it obviously stresses me out a ton during the day that I'm worried that my baby is not eating. As far as pumping goes, I have just been putting my milk into the freezer now, just because since she is not drinking a ton, I just don't want that milk to go to waste. So I'm usually sending over 1 just bottle now because my grandma has a stockpile in her refrigerator and her freezer as well, because I've sent over both frozen packs from when I was pumping over the summer when I was on maternity leave, and then I'm sending the fresh milk over as well, so she just doesn't have to thaw the frozen milk until maybe somebody starts getting a little hungrier. Say, I'm mad I don't get my mommy all day, so I'm being stubborn. Just like I was stubborn and didn't come out till 41 weeks and 6 days. She's gonna hear that until the day I die. So besides just trying to drink a ton and snacking a ton during the workday to keep my supply up, yeah, I have been drinking, it's called Mama Nursing Tea, and I've had this on I think my Instagram stories a couple times, and I talked about it in my first day back at work video, which I'll link up there in case you want to see it. I was a hot mess. Still pretty much hot mess status these days. But I have to say I highly, highly recommend this Mama Nursing tea. It's a Chinese herbal tea. It has a unique taste. It actually has a very naturally sweet taste. I at first added a little bit of honey and then I tried it without it and realized I didn't need the honey at all. But I dilute it with a lot of water. That is the biggest thing I would say if you're going to try it. I dilute it with a lot of water because it is really strong if you don't dilute it. But I will also put the link where you can find that and order it on Amazon if it's something you're interested in. I'm gonna go give her to my husband fast because I feel like, yeah, we're in the witching hour right now, so I'm gonna go give her to him. That's all I can do these days, guys. It's like, I am beyond stressed out, just like a complete hot mess over here. Which is why I have this glass of wine waiting for me. But I actually can't drink it for a few hours because here's the deal with drinking while breastfeeding. And I do just want other mamas to know this because I've heard a lot of moms say I didn't think I could drink it all if I'm nursing, or I thought I had to pump and dump if I'm nursing, or do I have to test my milk if I'm nursing? And I'm gonna set this down. I'm like way too tempted to actually just start drinking it. But this is what my doctor has told me. She said, if you feel comfortable that you would drive your car, it is fine to nurse your baby. So essentially, if you're not feeling buzzed at all, you can nurse your baby. And this is what I've looked up, is that generally if you have a small glass of wine, so a 4-ounce glass of wine, you're going out to a restaurant or something like that, I think it's pretty standard as a 4-ounce glass of wine. That generally will take 2 to 3 hours until it's out of your system. So what I will do is I will nurse P before she goes down to sleep, because right now that's her longest stretch of sleep. She'll go to bed usually between 7:30, and she's not up again until 10:30, sometimes more like midnight or 12:30 if we get a nice long stretch of a day. So if I have that glass of wine right after I put her to bed, which is when I have it, it's generally then at least 2 to 3 hours, if not a little bit more. So it's out of my system. I don't feel buzzed. I don't feel drunk. And therefore, applying my doctor's rule, I feel comfortable nursing my baby after I just have a small glass of wine. I'm not, out at bars ripping shots or, drinking a 6-pack before I nurse my baby. I think if you have any personal questions about how much you could actually have, or if you should use those little test strips, I've seen them at Target. I know they sell strips that if you dip them in your breast milk after you've been drinking, you can test to see what the alcohol level is and if it would be safe or not for you to feed your baby at that time, or if you would have to pump and dump. But basically that's what my doctor said to me is, don't waste your breast milk, don't pump and dump. If you're just going to be having a small glass of wine with dinner and you would still drive your car, you can definitely nurse your baby. And just in general, I am just trying to limit if I have a glass of wine or how many days a week that I am having a glass of wine, because I do think it really does affect your milk supply. First and foremost, I want my baby to have the best milk supply possible, which is why I have only 1 cup of coffee a day and the occasional glass of wine if it was a rough day, or if it's bachelor in paradise night. But yeah, I've gotten that question a lot because I think I've posted a couple of times, usually on like bachelor nights or when I'm having a bubble bath, that I'm having a glass of wine, and that's sort of the general rule that I follow. I know I've also seen some mamas who live in other countries post that they actually get recommendations from their doctor to have a beer, because that has been shown that it can actually cause you to produce more milk or increase lactation, which I haven't read too much about it, but that is one of the things I've seen other mamas post is guidelines that having a beer can help increase milk supply. But I think those were all of the questions I've been getting and just sort of the general updates I wanted to give about breastfeeding at this point. I'm obviously very proud that we've made it to 3 months, just because it does take a significant amount of intentionality and effort to get to this place. And that being said, if you are a mama out there who's struggling with breastfeeding, I would definitely say reach out to a lactation consultant. I have someone even from Germany who's a lactation consultant who's given me some tips on Instagram, and she's given me some tips about P just not eating over my grandma's that were really, really helpful. So even though for the most part breastfeeding is going really well for me, I still need advice from lactation consultants, and I'm constantly looking things up to make sure that I'm doing this right, because as natural as it can seem, there's definitely like lots of bumps in the road where it just doesn't feel very natural. And if you're a mama who's like really like, I just don't think breastfeeding is for me, this is just way too difficult, there's way too much of a strain, Obviously, we are all trying to be supportive of a fed baby. So I know there's like breast is best and a lot of shaming going on around formula, but like truly you have to do what's best for you and your baby and your family. So just know that whether you're breastfeeding or feeding your baby formula, this mama is supporting you and your decision and your choices. I just don't want there to be any shame if you can't breastfeed your baby. Or if you're choosing to breastfeed your baby, I want you to feel supported. And if you're choosing to give your baby formula, I want you to feel supportive too, because mom life is way too hard for us not to support each other. Okay, rant over. I just honestly have like seen some mamas who have shifted to formula feeding, and I just don't like seeing the guilt they're going through or that negativity they're going through because they're making that decision. Okay, I'm gonna go take care of P because I just feel bad for her. It's kind of witching hour. I think I'm gonna go take her for a walk and enjoy the rest of our Sunday. And I will definitely be having that glass of wine after she goes to sleep tonight. Brace myself for another work week where I'm just going to hope and pray that she's eating more when she's over at my Gigi's house. If there are any other video requests that you have, please leave them in the comments below. And I'm sorry that this video was probably all over the place. That is just how life is these days. I'm doing my very, very best, so I'm sorry it's not super organized and coordinated. I'll get back to my old self here eventually. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.